morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning, and hello, kids. And welcome to season 4 and episode number. I have no idea. I'm going to just guess 525 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Cryer Media Network. Yeah. Today, recording day is Tuesday, December 3rd, 2024. And it looks like it's going to be nice to hear at the Beaver Lodge. I just finally looked up. The computer has had all my attention this morning. Hi, I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, hey. And as a pleasant surprise with me this morning is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. Big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. Mr. Grizzly, how's your mental health today?
Well, so far so good, considering I'm on a train to go to a meeting that's been canceled. So,
oh no.
Yeah, so the email came out last night around 5 o'clock. I didn't see it till this morning. Wouldn't have mattered anyway. There's no way I could cancel the trip and get any money back. Like, I'd be out the money. So I'm like, I was already on the train, and I checked my mail on my phone. It was like, oh, the meeting's canceled. I'm like, oh, well, we're already en route. Nothing I can do about it. And if I had gotten an email last night, there was still nothing I could do about it. So I was like, I might as well use it. I'll go to Montreal, do some window shopping. I'll meet with some clients, and maybe I can meet up with Vin. I got a few friends in Montreal, so I'm there till 6 p.m. So
yeah, turn it into an opportunity. Bonus day off.
Exactly.
Mr. Grizzly's day off. Sort of, because you're still here.
Yeah.
Grizzly. I can't wait to see the flash mob number.
Oh, wait. That's not happening. I've been up since 4 a.m. I was up at 4 a.m. yesterday to catch a 7 a.m. flight in Calgary. And let me tell you something. The Calgary airport on a Monday morning is a nightmare because security lineups are crazy. It took me 35 minutes to get through security. And then it was like, get to my flight. I waited 10 minutes and I was on the flight. Landed in Toronto at gate B3 of Terminal 3. And my connecting flight was at B34 of Terminal 3, which means I'm from one extreme to the other. So it's like a 20-minute walk. I got there just as they were boarding. So I didn't eat anything yesterday other than the snacks that I got on the plane from Porter. So yeah, it was a very long day yesterday. Anyway.
Wow. Okay.
But I did get some skiing in at Lake Louise, which was fun. conditions were good. They weren't great. It was, honest to goodness, it was like an average day at Tremblant. And my buddy was like, yeah, like we experienced a lot of icy runs, surprisingly, but conditions were good.
Okay.
The only complaint was we get to the top of the mountain, we start to go, and I'm like, dude, I can't see anything. Like, you're looking at the snow and you can't see any ruts. I caught a couple of times where I could have wiped, but because I'm a pretty strong skier, I was able to maintain control.
Okay.
But there was one point when I was carving down the mountain and I caught a rut that I didn't see because visibility was terrible.
Right.
And had I had my own skis instead of rentals, I would have been able to recover. But I tried to recover, and one ski went flying, and then the other one, knocked me up. My boot hit the mountain, and then I went flying, tore the other one off. I just landed on my hip, no big deal. Slid for a few feet, but this is the first time my skis have come off in 30 years. Again,
wow.
They were rentals, they weren't mine. So mine are cranked, my bindings are cranked so high that they don't come off. Whereas
Right.
in this case, these popped off quite easily. So,
Hmm.
anyway.
Neat. Did you have fun?
Oh, I had a great time. I don't know, like, I hadn't been to Lake Louise in 50 years, but I'll tell you right now, green runs at Lake Louise are blue to black at any other hill in North America. And I'm not joking. There are parts where I'm sitting there with Alex and I go, how on earth is this a blue run? This is like a 48-degree pitch. I mean, this is steep. You can't carve it, because it's so steep you can't carve. You've got to just do tight turns to keep from going too fast down the mountain and hitting people, right, to maintain control. So, but I loved it, and I'm hoping to get back out before the end of the winter because it was great skiing.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't super busy, so it was just great to get out skiing again. God, I miss it so much.
Mm-hmm. No, I know that's no joke because the first time I ever skied was out in Panorama, BC.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The Bunny Hill. I was just looking down. I was going, this is a starter hill? Are y'all kidding me right now?
Yeah.
I was like at the top of it, like for about 10 minutes before I decided to push the first time because it just seems so steep.
Well, one of the runs we took, we're getting down towards, I'd say about maybe a third left of the mountain. And my buddy says, let's go off this way. I'll go, okay. Instead of going straight down the blue, he says, let's go off this way where it says learning run. And I'm like, okay, it starts out relatively good. And then it gets, we go down maybe, I don't know, a few hundred meters. And then all of a sudden it's like this super steep pitch. And I'm like, that's a pretty serious run. And I'm a really experienced skier. So I just thought it was ironic. But it was great. It was great. Oh, yeah, Cassie, you're right. Rockies do restore the soul. And thankfully, it wasn't super busy. So there were no lineups. Like, literally, there might have been 3 people in front of us on either the chairlift or the gondola at any point. So, yeah. But, so Lake Louise, I think the lift tickets for half day were $125. And skis to rent were $72, which wasn't bad for the rental. But full days $150. And I'm checking and Lake Louise is the best around as far as I'm concerned, other than say Whistler Blackcomb, which is flight. Whistler Blackcomb. If you buy the pass in advance for the day, guess how much? Just take a wild guess how much for 1 day pass if you buy in advance online.
Whistler Blackcomb, that must be $150.
Double that.
Really?
$300 if you buy online. $330 if you buy at the door.
Wow.
For 1 day skiing. I'm like, that's absurd. That, like, you're eliminating a large part of the population.
Wow. Well, I mean, I guess they have to.
$300 though for a day?
No, trust me, no, that's a lot. But I mean, it's not like the resort has huge capacity either, and it's now an Olympic resort, right?
Oh, yeah, I suppose. But they don't have any FIS runs there. The only FIS race in Canada is at Lake Louise.
Okay. Yeah. Indeed. Oh, anyway. Wow. Well, hey, you know what?
Trip. I accomplished some of the things I set out to do. I had a meeting. We had a dinner party thing scheduled Saturday evening with some friends, and we were going to discuss some business. Unfortunately, my friend developed COVID, so the dinner party was canceled. We ended up at a comedy club and had a great time, but I was like, oh well.
Oh, no.
Yeah. There's life keeps throwing me curveballs, and I just smile at them like, Saturday we had the meeting scheduled. It was going to be a dinner party, but a meeting because she wanted to pitch me on a few things, and I wanted to pitch
Right.
her on a few things, but she developed COVID, so that didn't happen. And then today's meeting, same thing. The guy had to cancel at the last minute, so it's like, oh well, what can I do, right? I was already on the train when I saw the email.
Oh man, my friend.
Yeah. Hey, I'll spend the day in Montreal. I will meet with a couple of colleagues though, so it won't be a complete write-off. We'll get a chance to have a meet and greet and have lunch together, but that's about the size of it. Like I won't be able to discuss any new business.
Yeah.
The whole point of today's meeting was to bring some new business in. But yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Life goes on.
Ah, damn. I mean, it's like you still got to ski. You still got to see some friends. You're going to make the most of Montreal. I mean, it's not like it sucks, but it's
Exactly.
the things
just
you
gotta roll
set
with
out
it.
to do, however.
Yeah, it happens. You just got to
Now,
roll with the punches, man.
yeah.
Roll with
Now,
the punches.
fortunately, you can still have meetings virtually and whatnot, but, there is
Yes.
the face-to-face thing that's,
Well, it was not just face to face. It was also to look at and demo some product. He was going to run us through
Yeah.
how things operate in that. So that,
yeah, indeed. Well, I hope your friend feels better soon.
yeah, me too. I'm
Yeah.
gonna check in with him later today.
Right.
By the way, how was the? These mics are supposed to do some noise cancellation. I don't know if you can hear the train. If it's loud, does anybody hear it? How is it? Like, is it too noisy? I mean, I'm not going to stay on long because the Via Rail's Wi-Fi can hit or miss at some points.
Yeah. I'm not, maybe hearing a slight little rumbling. I don't have mine on up very loud, because I have headphones in my ears a lot. So, but right now I'm not hearing anything distracting, and I hear like just a little murmur of chatter behind you, but nothing that bad. So I think you're pretty isolated.
I'm using
Yeah.
it's the bridge. The mic I was using the built-in mic, but now I'm using the headset mic so it's a little quieter.
Okay. Yeah. You're starting not to come in as clearly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, garbled for a little bit. You might be okay now, though.
Or it might be the Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Indeed. All right. Oh, kids and cubs. It has been a weekend. A long weekend for us because we had two recorded shows, which having followed it in the chat with you in the mornings, because I like to do that when we have a pre-record, so that I still get my dose of damn fam. You guys seem to really enjoy, so thank you so much, and I will pass on the compliments to our guests. You are all very, very, very kind when we have our guests on, and are very positive and encouraging. So, and you always get engaged. So it's lovely to see. Particularly, I have to say biased. When it comes to Rajan, when it's people that are part of my life outside of the show as well, and for whom I have a particular affection. When you guys like them too, well, that gives me a particularly warm fuzzy. So thank you very much for all those kind words, and I will definitely pass on your compliments to our guests. And I'm glad you enjoyed the shows. That has actually been a good thing for us, because there has been a huge development in the whole Trump-Trudeau thing, or I should say Trudeau-Trump thing. And nobody actually saw it coming. So tongues have been wagging, and again, I think if you've been following this show for a while, my thoughts on the hot take. That there are certain things, if it's a well-established discipline, and things come out and somebody says something, and you can immediately say, well, if you do that, you can see that, you can have a hot take. But sometimes there are certain contexts and certain situations where a hot take is probably not the best thing, because the statistical probability that they will not age well are particularly high. Let's put it that way. So sometimes having an extra day or two before you come out and say something about stuff can be really helpful. So, Mr. Grizzly, thank you for being away at just the right time. There have been a lot of terrible takes, but on Friday, it would appear, out of the blue, people who like to monitor the Prime Minister's jet kind of noticed it was in the air. But there was no announcement anywhere that the Prime Minister was going anywhere. I think he was at an event earlier that afternoon doing stuff, prime ministerial stuff, and all of a sudden he was in the air. And it's like, well, where's he going? He's going south. Is he going to Florida? He's going to Florida. He's going to Mar-a-Lago. Everybody lost their minds. Now, normally, when you go to Mar-a-Lago, or you're going to the United States to meet the president, well, that's planned well in advance. Now, mind you, and this is one thing that a lot of people online keep on forgetting, is that Mr. Trump is president-elect. He is not actually president. Right now, he's technically the leader of the opposition. Right now. Right? Until sometime in January. So, and it's extraordinary to be, how do you put it, so openly dealing with the president-elect, because in the United States, they have this rule, I believe it is a law, that says there's only one president at the time, and that there are rules with engaging with the incoming administration while there is still president. There are certain things that you are allowed to talk about, but there are certain things you should not be talking about yet. And this is being completely blown out of the water, and this is all happening right out in the open, right? That particular law, not sure, can't remember what it's called, but it also just has no teeth, so nobody's ever actually really tried to enforce it, but apparently it is a law. So he's going down there, and he's there for dinner. Now, this is not just this is dinner on U.S. Thanksgiving weekend. And one of the things that we say on this show is that a leader of a nation or of a province or whatnot, but a leader's most valuable asset is their time. The Prime Minister got an evening, 2-3 hours, of the next president of the United States time, his ear. So on one side, you have all the get Trudeau, anti-Trudeau, Trudeau's weak, whatever faction going like, the Prime Minister has been dragging his heels. Like the Team Canada stuff started like 6-something months ago. Contingency planning 101 requires that you start planning in case of whomever of the two candidates win. Mr. Grizzly, I hear a woman speaking pretty loudly. There we go. So yeah, so you have that that situation. Sorry, I got thrown off there. I had a flow going and got interrupted, and I don't actually remember where it is. I was particularly there. Oh yes, getting a world leader's time. So we have a situation where they're saying that Trudeau is dragging his heels, Trudeau is weak, Trudeau is all of this kind of stuff, right? You got that faction that really wants you to believe that. But as we mentioned on the show, the one thing that Canadian media does not seem to appreciate or put in the window as often is the fact that the Prime Minister of Canada is not just the Prime Minister of Canada. On the world scene, the Prime Minister of Canada is the dean of centrist and progressive countries. He is the most successful leader of a centrist or progressive democratic nation on the planet right now, and the longest serving, particularly among the G7 nations. On the world stage, and I know that Canada, it's like we tend to see ourselves as a little bit of a village when we're looking at ourselves on the world stage. But on the world stage, this guy, as Joe Biden says, is a BFD. It's kind of a big fucking deal. So Trump says he might be slapping on the tariffs, and within 90 minutes, the Prime Minister of Canada is on a phone call with him. And the President elect took the call. Then I'm not sure if that was discussed during that call or whatnot, but it appears, according to Dominic LeBlanc, the public safety minister, Trump is talking about the border, so kind of natural, he was there. So Dominic LeBlanc himself reports that there was a conversation at some point, so I do not know if it was the conversation on the first night, or there was another conversation that happened in between, but apparently the President-elect said, why don't you come over for dinner? And our Prime Minister, seeing the opportunity to have a couple of hours, said, yeah, I'm going to make that happen. And Friday it was wheels up. And then it appears that they've had a great dinner. They talked about stuff that they needed to talk about. They discussed border security. They discussed tariffs. Dominic LeBlanc was at the table with the Chief of Staff, Katie Telford. The President-elect had his nominees for Secretary of Commerce and National Security Advisor at the table. A couple of other people there as well. And according to Mr. LeBlanc, it was a very cordial meeting. It was very warm. It was very friendly. The president-elect appeared to be having quite a good time. Is reported to have had an iPad at the table and was taking requests for what kind of music people would like to hear. So apparently in a good mood. Apparently walked them to their car at the end of the evening. Call me anytime. Talk soon. The Prime Minister is seen leaving Florida smiling. The President-elect, who, has in the past called our Prime Minister a far-right lunatic and two-faced and all that kind of stuff, usually when he needs to distract from something going on at home and change the channel a little bit. Posting all over his socials that he is a very special guest with him. Also claiming that the meeting was very productive. So you could imagine that there are certain people in Canada who have been telling us for a long time how our Prime Minister is weak and effective and everybody's laughing at him and nobody takes him seriously, has his calls taken and gets invited to dinner and has a man that he's dealt with before, whom, according to our Foreign Affairs Minister, everybody is asking, how do you handle Trump? Because apparently we're seen as having done it very well the first time around. And they have their first meeting. And, the president-elect is happy.
Irony of ironies, right? I'm going to jump because my connection's not great here. So I'll see y'all later, all right?
Okay. Have a great day. Have fun.
You too.
Right. So all of a sudden, all the tropes that are there, all the narratives that they're pushing just kind of blow up. Now, of course, you have to understand for that side, right? Doesn't matter if the narrative doesn't blow up, because then they just grab the goalpost and they move it a couple of yards down and they say, oh. And of course, you had our leader of the opposition, who I assume must have been rather jelly and not happy about that at all. Well, when the prime minister came home, got a little testy and was all like, oh, the meeting didn't accomplish anything anyway. The prime minister didn't get anything. I mean, when you go to see the president of the United States, usually it's because, you're supposed to get a gain. What did the prime minister gain? Nothing. I'm like sitting here, I'm thinking, oh, girl. Right, you got to be kidding me, right? Okay, first of all, look, how the hell would you be in any position to know what it is the prime minister came home from that meeting with? He didn't invite you to dinner, honey. He didn't take your call. The prime minister's weak. Oh, you gotta roll over and show your belly. We have to please Donald Trump. Let's throw some more virgins into the volcanoes. What? He's going to dinner? No. Oh my God. These people, I swear to God. So first of all, he's in no position to know. He wasn't invited. There was nobody from his team there. And it's not like the prime minister rushed back from Mar-a-Lago to breathlessly report back to BP about what it is he discussed with the president-elect. And even if the prime minister wanted to, it's not like BP has a security clearance. So, I mean, it's not like the prime minister could actually tell them. The prime minister should come back with a win. You have no way of knowing that. That's just a line you pulled out of your arse. Jeez, what a placer. Oh my God. And then, of course, he is asked. There was that other scene the other day where he was asked, and there's a clip about it. It's famous now, but Mr. Grizzly is, like I said, off air right now, so we can't show it. But where the leader of the opposition was asked specifically if he or his team had been in communication with anybody from the Trump administration, and would they go to Mar-a-Lago, or would he go to Mar-a-Lago if he was invited? And he sort of basically said, I'm not the prime minister. And then faster than Roadrunner can go, he was gone. And I'm sitting there, well. Look who suddenly is not prime minister. Now, I'm not saying he said he is prime minister, but he sure the hell has been presenting himself as prime minister or alternative prime minister for the last 2 years. I mean, he wants to fire the governor of Bank of Canada. He wants to punish municipalities if they don't build fast enough. Of course, he's not actually willing to do anything to help them build, it appears. I mean, he's inserting himself in all the places, right? Dictating policy. I mean, my God, we had to remove the carbon tax provisions from our free trade agreement with Ukraine to please him. He's been walking around like he believes he's running things and he is the prime minister that everybody would rather have right now. So all of a sudden, when asked, well, I'm not the prime minister. It's like, that's not a no. That's a hell yeah. If I get the call, I am bringing my arse down there faster than you could say tariffs. And that's why he ran away. He can't even be honest with Canadians about whether or not the team of the president-elect has been in touch with him or anyone on his team. And you got people going all over the internet saying, well, he's not prime minister yet. That would be okay. Or even like, that would be treason. It was like, no. Trump is president-elect. As I mentioned before, they're both technically leaders of the opposition. There's absolutely nothing that prevents two leaders of the opposition from having a phone conversation. Nothing. There's no laws, there's no rules, there's no constitutional thing. It's definitely not treason. That's a question he can answer. There is no reason for him to not be willing to answer that question other than the answer would not make him look good. Because the prime minister wasn't afraid to answer that question. Wheels up, let's go. But it's the prime minister who's weak. We are supposed to believe. Oh, God. I live for the awkward moment. I could, you know what? I can imagine ketchup hitting a wall at Stornoway. Holy crap. Jeez. It is, yeah. So now, right, the conservative side is definitely thrown off its axis. It does not know what to do. And here's the thing too, right, is all of a sudden there's a big bunch of really, really interesting news, right, attacking the conservative side. There's these tariffs, and how are you handling it? What would you look like on world stage? So that's going on, right? And then the foreign interference inquiry is happening in the background. That's going on. There's a little bit of extra news about India that just popped up that he's going to have to deal with very soon, and we'll get into that. It's and oh yes, and then there's the fact that the Public Safety Committee of Parliament has requested, apparently several times, for Patrick Brown to come to committee and testify, and he has been refusing to testify because allegedly he knows nothing and has already said everything, has nothing much more that he could offer. So apparently they issued a summons to compel him to come, and the Conservatives, Rachel Dancho. Not sure how I pronounce her name. Unfortunately, I'm sorry. I should actually know that because she comes up often for the Conservative Party of Canada. But yeah, she was like, "Wow, this sounds like a little extreme," and the kind of stuff. And it's like, I'm old enough to remember conservatives wanting to issue these types of summons without people actually refusing to come to testify, just as a preemptive strike to create the aura that they are so inclined to lie and so deceitful that they need to be compelled. But that's not the case here. This is someone that has been asked, invited a couple of times and said, I would rather not, thank you very much. So now they are being compelled. So now, of course, this could be similar to what we saw in the United States, people who might be okay with testifying or not okay with testifying, but let's say might be okay with testifying, but they have to play the role for the base or for the insiders or for the friends. So it's like, no, 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 I will not testify. You will have to compel me. So I didn't go willingly, guys. I had to. They issued a summons, right? So could be a little bit of that going on. But he says he knows nothing, and I'm having a hard time believing that he would have no additional insights into the reason for which his once much publicized friendship with the current Prime Minister of India suddenly just went. Whew. I would think that he might have an idea why. That would be a good place to start asking a few questions. So, all of this happened, and then, interestingly enough, a bit of news came out. It was a CBC article by Brigitte Bureau, who was on Power and Politics the other day, and I might do this tomorrow, is show you the actual interview when Mr. Grizzly is back at the control board. But this article came out on December 2nd, 4 a.m. So this is a plot twist yesterday. Because, wondering, what could Patrick Brown bring? He has until the 10th, by the way, of December to report back to the committee to actually schedule a date for his appearance. But this article reads, agents of the Indian government allegedly attempted to derail Patrick Brown's campaign for the leadership of the Conservative Party in 2022, according to sources who spoke to Radio-Canada. Brown's national campaign co-chair, Conservative MP Michelle Rempel-Gardner, note that name right now, allegedly was pressured to withdraw her support for Brown in the 2022 Conservative Party of Canada leadership race, confidential sources told Radio-Canada. Rempel-Gardner categorically denies the allegation, and I do not know if you've seen it, but there is a piece of video where I guess a journalist is coming to ask her about that. It seems that she might have been having lunch, and she literally got up out of her seat. She popped out of her seat like she had been sitting in a toaster and was gone. I've never seen her move that fast. Both Pierre and Poilievre and Michelle Rempel appear to have been taking a few lessons from U.S. Senator Josh Hawley, because both of them were hauling ass real fast. And she was upset, allegedly, that the question was being asked during her lunch. I could, if that was indeed the case, I can understand that, because MPs are public figures, and can I at least eat and can I at least eat, pee, and poop in peace without a microphone up my nose? Thank you very much. That part I get. It's like I'm very accessible, but I'm still a human being. So I can get that. But also, it's a very unpopular, with the person to whom it is being asked, question. Asked of a rather popular person. And that is the job of journalism, right? So let's just put it this way. She and he did not strike me as people who were itching to answer those questions. So that's, again, my little thing. I found the spot on the body where if I press, the person goes, ow. So now grab that little finger and stick it in there. Go find out. what's going on. But let's just put it this way. If she says that if she categorically denies the allegation that she was pressured to withdraw her support for Brown in the 2022 Conservative Party of Canada leadership race, which I believe she did step aside from it at some point during there, and then ran that fast when asked about it, that's not a no. Like Pierre Poilievre saying, I'm not prime minister, then turning around and running away. That's not a no. And in this case, that's a frightening, that's not a no. And considering certain events that have happened on Canadian territory and that were planned to happen on U.S. territory, events for which in the United States indictments were issued, when the words allegedly was pressured to withdraw her support for Brown, takes on some rather concerning, as an understatement, color and texture. This stuff is should be sending a chill up and down our collective spines right now. The article continues. Radio-Canada has no evidence indicating that Pierre Poilievre, now the Conservative leader, was aware of the alleged actions of India's agents. And given that he doesn't have a security clearance, if those were indeed actions by Indian agents, as seems to be suggested by this story, there's no way he can do anything about it, and there's nothing he could do to protect his MPs from it. Especially the ones that are targets, because he can't know. So you have to understand here that this man is not only putting national security at risk, he's not only standing as this huge beacon to any corrupt entity all over the world that says, hey, I am open for business. I am the weak link in the chain because I will not get the clear. So, and he can sit around all day long and say, it's because I don't want to be muzzled. But I've watched enough international thriller movies to know that when somebody's behaving like that on the world scene, there are some people out there who are less than scrupulous who would say, hey, wait a minute, this is strange new behavior. He's saying it's because he doesn't want to be muzzled, but let's look here to see if there might be some other reasons for which he might not be wanting to get that clearance. Because if there are, in that international poker game where everybody's cheating, particularly at the tables where they're not necessarily government entities playing, that's a good way to control someone, isn't it? I believe the Russian word for it is kompromat. So I'm still not understanding why it is that the federal government is not passing that law. The only thing I can hope for, it's my political prayer, is that please tell me that the Liberals have a bill that makes it mandatory that all leaders of parties that are represented in the House of Commons must obtain their security clearance via the oversight method, and that the Prime Minister of Canada will no longer automatically get that level of security clearance without first being cleared via the oversight method. Please tell me there's a bill that states that is ready to go. And the only reason the Liberals are not talking about it and haven't presented it yet is because they are waiting to see the report from Justice Marie-Josée Hug, the Foreign Inquiry Report, and they are waiting to see PB try to run away from it and or attack a couple of journalists along the way and or maybe disappear for a week or two until he hopes the narrative blows over. His usual tricks. And then they drop it. But we need to make this a law or else he's not going to do it. Unless the rumors are true that he is not going to be the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada going into the next election. Doug Ford is maneuvering his way in. The article continues. Radio-Canada spoke separately with 5 people who were closely involved in Brown's leadership campaign. Brown is mayor of Brampton, Ontario, and a former leader of the Ontario Progressive Conservative Party. The sources provided specific examples of what they said was pressure exerted by Indian consular agents in Canada to harm Brown's candidacy. So up until now, we've known that they may have been involved, and then it seems, in fact, that they were indeed involved. There might have been some contracting out of certain activities to gang members and other types of things, entities. And there have been trails of evidence as a result of that. But when it comes to pressure on elected officials, it's always been this sort of they were involved, they favored, but how? Right? How did that manifest itself in real life? Okay, pressure exerted upon one of the co-chairs of the candidate that they wanted to bow out for her to abandon the campaign, thus hobbling the candidate. As well, sources said campaign workers were told by representatives of the government of India to stop supporting Brown, not to sell membership cards for him, and not to invite him to certain events. Radio-Canada granted the sources confidentiality because they say they fear for their safety. The RCMP announced in October they have evidence that agents of the Indian government were involved in serious criminal activity in Canada, including murders and extortion. Brown has been summoned to appear before the House of Commons Standing Committee on Public Safety and National Security, looking into the, quote, electoral interference and criminal activities in Canada by agents of the Government of India. Allegations of interference in the Conservative Party of Canada race involving a Conservative Member of Parliament were first reported on last year by the Baz News organization, a media outlet for the Sikh community in Canada. Quote, at least one member of parliament was visited by representatives of an Indian consulate in Canada who urged the MP to pull their support for Patrick Brown during the 2022 Conservative Party of Canada leadership race, the outlet reported in December 2023. The report did not identify the MP. And then it says here, according to Radio-Canada sources, the Conservative MP in question is Michelle Rempel-Garner of Calgary Nose Hill. Quote, Indian consulate representatives had approached Michelle, strongly suggesting that it was not in her best interest to continue working alongside Patrick, said a highly placed source in Brown's campaign. The MP shared this information with several other members of the team, sources said. Quote, it was a topic of discussion in one of our campaign conference calls with her about it, said one source. These Indian diplomats approached her and told her, quote, or paraphrase in this case, you need to retract your support for Patrick, said another person who took part in the campaign conference call. Sometime later, on June 16, 2022, in the middle of the leadership race, Rempel-Garner quit her position as co-chair of Brown's campaign. She said she was seriously considering a bid to replace Jason Kenney as leader of the Alberta United Conservative Party. She publicly abandoned that idea a week later, citing concerns about the, quote, present internal UCP caucus dynamic. She did not return to her position in Brown's campaign. Brown declined Radio-Canada's request for an interview. Rempel-Garner sent a written statement, quote, I left Mr. Brown's campaign completely of my own volition, she said in that statement. Because, yes, that's what you would expect someone who is pressured to leave to say, but okay, I'm not sure that means anything. Quote, in no instance was I coerced in any manner by anyone at any time. I'm an experienced parliamentarian, seasoned communicator, and former cabinet minister who has proven more than capable of developing senior grade positions entirely based on my own read of a situation. And none of that has any bearing on the fact that if somebody wants to attempt to coerce you, that they will try. That does not make you immune. Quote, to suggest that I'm not is ridiculous. It's not a suggestion that you are not proven or capable, that someone decided that you were going to be their target for coercion. The only thing that says about you is that you were considered valuable as a target. It's not a criticism of your competency. She added that she has always worked to prevent discord among diaspora groups. Quote, preventing that division is why I've always taken into account the perspectives of many different Canadian interest groups and stakeholders before addressing issues that pertain to diaspora communities. Again, very nice. Has nothing to do with whether or not you were actually coerced. Now, so here we have a situation where somebody is categorically denying being coerced, getting mad when being asked about it, allegedly because she's having lunch, running away from the person asking the question very quickly. While there are reports that this is something that did happen and was discussed on a conference call. So many people know it and are aware. So despite the fact that many people know it and are aware, she is still saying today, right now, no, never happened. No way, nope, that's all wrong. Nope, I made all the decisions myself. How dare you claim I'm not competent? Changing the channel, moving the goalpost, trying to change the debate, accusing someone of something they didn't do to try to get you to debate, saying, no, I'm not doing that, which takes you away from asking about the actual subject. I don't know, man. This does not seem to me behavior that is consistent, particularly layered like this, with someone who was not coerced. The really inconvenient part for that narrative is that conference call that other people are talking openly about, saying, yeah, that did indeed happen. Well, talking openly. Not, I guess they're not giving their names yet. But they are willing to talk on record. In response to Radio-Canada's questions, Poilievre's official said it has no knowledge of any attempts by Indian government representatives to undermine Brown's campaign. I think Deborah Jodoin might disagree with that. For those who do not remember, Deborah Jodoin was somebody that worked in Patrick Brown's campaign, who appears to have been a little bit of a double agent and went back to make some allegations of impropriety. And it seems that it was Pierre Poilievre's campaign that covered her legal fees when she allegedly blew the whistle. And according to Dave Wallace, apparently, I believe his words is he has used her for similar activities in the past. I do not know how true that is, but these are things that are in the public domain. So, no knowledge of any attempts by Indians government representatives to undermine Brown's campaign. Maybe that which was happening with Miss Jodoin allegedly had some links to that was going on in India, or maybe it was its complete own separate parallel thing. That is possible. But let's just put it this way. If it has no knowledge, allegedly, of any attempts by Indian government representatives to undermine Brown's campaign, Poilievre's office definitely does not have no knowledge of any attempts to undermine Brown's campaign. So if the thing with Deborah Jodoin or Debbie Jodoin was a whole independent thing, then basically it's, well, you've already shown that you're willing to undermine another person's campaign and actually take steps in furtherance of that will or inclination. So if you could do it there, why couldn't you do it here? The answer to that question gets a little more messy for conservatives at this point. The article continues here. So, in response to, as I mentioned, in response to Radio-Canada's questions, Poilievre's office says it has, quote, no knowledge of any attempts by Indian government representatives to undermine Brown's campaign. The National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians cited, quote, India's alleged interference in the Conservative Party of Canada leadership race in its explosive report on foreign interference. A redacted version of that report was made public in June 2024. Quote, CSIS did not advise the Conservative Party of Canada of any intelligence suggesting there was foreign interference in the leadership contest, Sarah Fisher, Director of Communications for the Conservative Party, said at the time. Quote, this is the first time we have heard about it. But we know that that wasn't true in June 2024 because there was a press progress article several months before that was public, and I believe that they were asked about. But because it was press progress and it's a smaller outlet, didn't really blow up nationally and didn't really get covered that much, if at all, by the national sort of mainstream media. So Sarah Fisher can come and pretend that June 2024 was the first time they had heard about it. But that's not true at all. like really not at all. They treat us like we are stupid. All right. Let's see. What else does this have? With regard to Patrick Brown. Oh, hold on. Sorry. Yes. And of course, it says Poilievre. The article points out that Poilievre is the only leader in parliament who still refuses to obtain the necessary security clearance. As it pertains to Patrick Brown, pressure from Indian consular officials was not limited to the directors of Brown's campaign during the Conservative Party leadership race, said Radio-Canada sources. Campaign workers on the ground also were allegedly targeted, they said. Quote, supporters from the Hindu community were being told that they were not allowed to sign up members for Patrick Brown by officials of the Indian consulates, said a source close to the campaign. It was also made clear to organizers of events that Indian consulates had told them, you can't invite Patrick Brown to these diaspora kind of events where the consulate is going to be involved. Sources said the pressure came from Indian consular officials themselves or from their proxies, Canadian organizations linked to the government of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. They said the Indian agents were not explicitly directing their supporters to any candidate's camp. We're not directing any supporters toward anybody's camp. Okay. How about pulling people away from somebody's camp? Whenever you look at those statements, that's why the wording is very important. They're not telling anybody who to vote for. They're not telling them who to support. We're not telling anybody who to support. But you're allegedly telling people who to pull their support from. You're denying doing something of which you are not accused. That's also a tell. Let's discuss the thing that I'm not accused of because I'm so innocent. Crafty. This spring, former Canadian Security Intelligence Service Director David Vigneault was questioned before the commission investigating foreign interference about whether India interferes in high-priority individual races. Quote, I think it is absolutely fair to say the purpose of foreign interference is to maximize the interests of the foreign party. And so, this is absolutely a tactic that has been used to undermine candidates or individuals who may not be in favor of your position and promote people who might be in favor of your position, he responded. Sources told Radio-Canada that agents of the Indian government made Brown persona non grata at a community event when it was widely known that he was planning to run for the Conservative leadership. Quote, there was a Panorama India event hosted by the Indian community, and they directly told Patrick Brett that you are no longer welcome because of your ties with the Sikh community, said one of the sources. They told him, you have upset our friends at the Indian consulate, and they would prefer that you not attend. Every year, Panorama India, an association based in Mississauga, Ontario, celebrates Republic Day, an Indian national holiday. Brown had participated in the festivities in the past and has attended since. He did not attend in 2022, the year of the leadership race. The event was scheduled for February 27th, 2 weeks before the official launch of Brown's campaign. His team, which allegedly had been hard at work for months, saw it as a great opportunity for their candidate to solicit support from the Hindu community. But Brown was reportedly, quote, disinvited at the request of Indian consular officials, one source said. As mayor of Brampton, the Canadian city with the largest Sikh population, Brown had developed close ties with the Sikh community, members of his campaign said. And since the Sikhs, particularly those who would like an independent Khalistan, are considered terrorists by the Modi government, Modi seeing Brown cavorting with terrorists, allegedly, as they would put it, particularly at some events where there might have been some Khalistani flags up. That probably did not go over well. But how do you become the mayor of Brampton without representing the Sikh community? So apparently, Patrick Brown's alleged friendship with the Prime Minister of India also meant that there were certain jobs he was not allowed to have. It would seem. Again, that should send a chill down your spine. Brown had posted messages on Twitter in support of farmers during the massive demonstrations in India against the Modi government's agricultural reform. Many of these farmers came from Punjab, a Sikh-majority state. Well, that certainly would not help. When one of the movement's supporters, actor and activist Deep Sidhu, died in a car accident in India, Brown participated in a vigil organized by the Sikh community outside Brampton City Hall and posted a photo of the event on his Twitter account in February 2022. Indian media reported at the time that the Modi government had, quote, serious concerns about Brown's attendance at the vigil and made them known to the federal government. Panorama India's chairperson at the time did not respond to Radio-Canada's request for comment. The current chairperson said she was shocked by the allegations and insisted the organization is not political. On its website, Panorama India says it's a not-for-profit umbrella organization for various Indian cultural associations. It was established with the support from the Consulate General of India in Toronto, and the Indian consul is the honorary patron of Panorama India, according to the organization's website. The High Commission of India in Ottawa and the Indian Consulate General in Toronto and Vancouver did not respond to requests for comment. So, and in here, there is an image of a tweet of Patrick Brown at an event on February 20th, 2022, where it says, spoke at the hashtag Deep Sidhu vigil outside of, quote, Brampton City Hall, along with Harkirat Singh, I'm going to guess. My condolences to his family, friends, and supporters. Many Sikhs around the world have recognized Deep Sidhu as a hero for his courage and relentless advocacy during the hashtag farmers protest. So clearly, that probably did not go over very well in India. Prime Minister Modi's government fiercely opposes the creation of an independent Sikh state, which it describes as a threat to national security. That issue is at the heart of the current tensions between Canada and India. So here's the thing. Patrick Brown says he knows nothing. He was very close friends. He is no longer close friends because in the process of wanting to become the mayor of Brampton, the city in Canada with the largest Sikh diaspora, he has been seen doing things that mayors do, going to events, having a good time, glad handing, listening to the concerns, trying to find ways to alleviate those concerns or respond to them. That this is not acceptable behavior. And it happens to be the same community that they do not want to have an independent state because they consider it a national security threat, and the same community that, based on what we have been hearing from the RCMP, our intelligence services, and the United States Department of Justice, that appears to be being targeted for various things like coercion and extortion and even murder. And it appears, based on these same law enforcement intelligence bodies, that the government of India is at least in some way playing a coordinating role in these events taking place. But Patrick Brown wants us to believe that he has no insights at all whatsoever that he might be able to offer. I'm finding that very hard to believe. So perhaps summons and under oath, and particularly if those on the 7, because the vote was 7-4, the 7 on the Public Safety Committee who did vote to bring him in and issue that summons, don't ask the 5-minute long rambling grandstanding question, but ask some questions a little more Tom Mulcair prosecutorial style, very precise and pointed, because it seems that we have a somewhat recalcitrant witness and might not be inclined to talk. If that which is alleged about Michelle Rempel here in this article about pressure and coercion, there is no reason to suspect that that could not be true of Mr. Brown as well. We don't know, but this is speculation, of course. But if we are in eyes wide open mode, considering past events and again things for which are in the public domain, for which there is supporting and corroborative evidence by the RCMP and the Department of Justice, we cannot eliminate that as a possibility. We certainly can't naively think, no, that would never happen, or that's completely off the menu. We don't need to consider that. It's possible. And I mean, presently, it's not like there's only 2 players. It's not just Patrick Brown versus the government of India, but it's Patrick Brown versus the government of India versus Pierre Poilievre, because, and somewhat the Canadian conservative machine, because, I mean, twice he aspired to something greater and twice he got smacked down and had his reputation destroyed and ruined. So, I won't say destroyed and ruined. Let's just put it twice he's been singled out for special treatment and exclusion by a movement in which he clearly wants to play a bigger role. So, yeah. According to the article, Brown and Modi actually used to be friends. The relationship between the two men developed in the early 2000s when Modi was chief minister of the state of Gujarat. At the time, Brown was a federal backbencher in Stephen Harper's government and president of the Canada-India Parliamentary Association. In his autobiography, Brown talks about his numerous trips to India and the royal treatment he received through his connection with Modi. He even describes the Indian politician as, quote, one of my inspirations in politics, citing his economic achievements. But Brown has since expressed concerns about the religious nationalist character of the Modi government. Quote, I've been tremendously disappointed with what's happened in India, Brown said in a 2022 campaign video, accusing the country of, quote, discrimination against Muslim, Sikh, and Christian communities. In his message, he invited diaspora members to join the Conservative Party of Canada so they could vote for him, but Brown never did finish the race. In July 2022, he was disqualified by Conservative Party authorities following allegations of, quote, serious wrongdoing linked to election financing. At the time, Brown accused the party establishment of, quote, wanting to make sure Poilievre did not lose. In September 2022, Poilievre easily won the Conservative Party of Canada leadership race. In February 2024, the Office of the Commissioner of Canada Elections dismissed the allegations that had been made against Brown's campaign. The commissioner concluded, after a thorough review of the information provided by the Conservative Party, that it was not in the public interest to pursue an investigation. The commissioner declared the file closed. So the allegation about serious wrongdoing linked to election financing apparently was nothing. So just say he did and let us do the rest, basically. In response to Radio-Canada's questions, the Conservative Party of Canada said it was not then nor today aware of Indian foreign interference meant to compromise Brown's campaign. I'm not sure if I believe that. Pardon me for a second, kids and cubs. I'm just going to cough, and I'll be right back with you. Thank you so much for your indulgence there. So yeah, really, like I said, there's been a lot going on. And you saw how all the stories sort of weaved in to one another. Kind of interesting. So there are links here. Now, with all of this going on, I had some thoughts the other day, and especially on the Trump Trudeau thing. And it strikes me, and this goes along with the whole rumor and the whole undercurrent there that Pierre Poilievre won't make it to the campaign, and that Doug Ford's trying to replace him. I don't know if you've noticed, but they're talking about these ad campaign that Doug Ford bought for the United States, Ontario, sort of your trusted ally and all that kind of stuff that he's showing. Apparently it's a pretty big ad buy, even NFL Monday Night Football in certain selected markets. So it seems that it's a big deal. But these were ads that were planned and prepared before the president-elect allegedly became the family member. Now that's right there. That Doug Ford was viewing the president-elect as a family member. Is this Wilkie speech? That right there is a bad move. Countries do not have friends. Countries have interests. Countries certainly do not have family members from other nations. We might talk a little bit about like Canada and the United States. Oh, Canada's the little brother, the little cousin, and whatnot. No. That's colloquial speak. But we're not. We're our own nation. So that framing right off the bat is not great. The president-elect of another nation, the prime minister-elect of another nation, should not be viewed as a family member who stab you in the heart. So you prepared these ads before this happened. There's a critical event that has taken place. No, maybe these ads don't need to be reviewed. I saw them. I was okay. They're not bad. Then your northern ally is a little heavy and ham-fisted. The mention of it in that way, so blatant in the ad. But they're not terrible ads. Maybe there was nothing that needed to be reviewed, but it seems to me that I would have taken a little second to see if maybe there was something we needed to add to that. Maybe the Northern Ally line was the thing that was added. Who knows? But yeah, they went out. And Doug Ford, who has been desperately trying to steal the mantle as some type of leader by rushing out and saying we need to throw Mexico under the bus. And then when that didn't work, rallying all the premiers and saying we need a meeting on the tariffs, and getting his meeting, and then they're going to like make this whole thing, and whoops, oh, the prime minister is already there talking to the president like one-on-one. Oh boy. Now he is moving because this territory he's tried it like 2-3 times and it hasn't worked out for him. So now he's moving to safer ground. Say like this, all the premiers agree that the prime minister needs to meet the 2% on NATO. Like, no shit, Sherlock. One, but number two, this is not your lane. Defense policy is not your lane at all. I'm not sure why it is that you are leading all the premiers to have an opinion and to be allegedly putting pressure on the prime minister to do. Trust me, the United States is doing a pretty good job on that. They don't really need your help. I don't. Doug, I want a freaking doctor. You're trying to be mayor of Ontario. Then somehow in the last month you got it in your mind that you should be presenting yourself as Prime Minister of Canada. What we need to do here is we need a plan. It's like, yeah, really, yeah, thank you. Sit down now, please. Now you're trying to be the chief of defense and the defense minister. Every freaking job but the one you got. I want a doctor, Doug. Many people would like a doctor. Doug, we talked a little bit last week about that report that the Ontario Liberals got their hands on, that they released. There was some pretty interesting information in that one. Greater than 2,000 doctors serving about 3 million people in Ontario are on the verge of retirement. Greater than 200 Ontario communities do not have a single family doctor living in them. There are only 444 municipalities in the entire province. It's not clear whether or not communities is the same thing as municipalities. So it's not sure of whether or not this is saying there's out of 440 municipalities, 200 don't have a single family doctor. It's not sure those things relate one-on-one, one-to-one, I should say. And greater than 4 million people in Ontario are not rostered to their own family doctor. 4 million people are not rostered to a family doctor. And this guy is bellying up to a mic and a camera saying, Justin Trudeau, you need to reach the 2% of NATO. And defense policy is nowhere in the provincial lane of competency. Why is Doug Ford repeatedly trying to place himself in the eyes of the nation as being the guy that says, okay, guys, we need a plan, and here it is? We're not journalists here. We don't have any people investigating and whatnot to see whether or not it is true, whether or not it's just some wishful thinking that Pierre Poilievre will not be the leader. We do have some people like Dave Wallace who again, a lot of what he says does appear to come to pass, uh, which is a little frightening. Um, but given that he can't say everything as well, um, sometimes it makes it easy to have some blanks that we want to fill in. And I would not necessarily, and I'm not saying this to suggest that there's a level of dishonesty or underhandedness to what Mr. Wallace is doing now. But given the line of work that he has been in and the goals he appears to have at the moment, I certainly would not put it past him to not maybe make use of some of the special skills that he had when he was using them for a certain purpose, but to repurpose those skills for the current purpose. So I'm not saying that this is the case, but a potential strategy could be that when he is uh, taking advantage of these media opportunities, that he might be dropping in a couple of things that may or may not be um, exactly accurate, but they would be enough to get certain people who he knows are listening's attention and make them worried. So, you can't run with everything, and we don't have the ability to double check. I do not get the feeling, based on, um, things said coming to pass, that he is a dishonest person in this particular pursuit. But that doesn't mean that he is not a strategic person in this pursuit. Because the rate at which you dish out information, things that you choose to say and hold back, ways that you might choose to frame things, sometimes have a few couple of ulterior intents behind them in these kinds of cases, especially when you are um, putting in use of media in whatever it is your strategy is to frame the public debate. So, um, the, like I said, these are strategies and skills, and I'm certainly not holding it against him if he is using them to use them, because when you are acting as a whistleblower, um, this, you can't just like sometimes you can't just run up and say, "Here's everything I know," blah, and put it all on the table, and then everything works out. Some, there are people who do not want you to say what it is that you are saying, right? So, and when that happens, saying what you want to say can become more complicated. So, um, but yeah, it's it's a very interesting set of chess pieces. And I mean, for those of us who are political junkies, I mean, it is kind of interesting and definitely all titillating, to speculate as to whether or not the guy who has been working so hard for the better part of 2 years to present himself as inevitable may actually never even get a shot. That's a very interesting and compelling narrative uh, that you would want to follow. It's almost telenovela-ish, right? A little bit of Succession or something going on here. So, like I said, that could be going on, but for us, that's running in the background, and it's there, and we got our ear out for it. But I don't think we're going to be obsessed with that one until we actually see a big, bold public move, because it also seems that word on the tweet is that Doug Ford may be rethinking his early election gambit, given all the stuff that's happened with the tariffs. He's afraid that it might look a little opportunistic to go. Opportunistic and maybe ill-timed to go, as the president-elect is threatening these types of tariffs. It would be more of an all hands on deck, particularly if he wants to present himself as the statesman, the guy who should be prime minister one day and maybe sooner than anybody would think. Then probably would not be a good idea to go that early, especially, if he really is serious about being Prime Minister of Canada, if you go have a provincial election, win it, and then leave that job 3 months later to go, that might be a little bit of office whorism. That represented office whorism that could leave a very sour taste in the mouths of the residents of the most populous province that you absolutely would need to win to become prime minister. So, yeah, that for sure spring election from Doug Ford is maybe not as sure anymore, especially if this opportunity, if the powers that be behind the scenes have really decided, you know what, we thought that PP is our guy, but yeah, he's not, because he just doesn't have the stuff. I mean, even if he gets elected, it's going to be a nightmare and we won't be able to get anything done. We needed to replace it by a guy who has already shown he can get it done. So, yeah, it's a very interesting and intriguing narrative. I will put it. I think it's lots of fun. We will see. There are definitely events that are happening that appear to seem to feed into that scenario. But again, it's at this stage when we're dealing with rumor and speculation. At that point, it's easy to make things fit or see things fit and not be as thorough as you're going through it. But this is how Doug Ford became the leader of the Progressive Conservative Party of Ontario and Premier of Ontario. I could see how for him it could be very attractive. Going, well, hey, it worked once. So keep your ear to the ground. This one is, like I said, might just be rumor, but there is enough there. And there's enough corroborating activity that does fit, that you don't have to make fit too hard to say that, that is a distinct possibility. I do not know if it's a plan, but it is a strategic option that is out there if somebody wanted to seize it and make a go of it. It definitely is there. So we'll see if that happens. Now, when we're talking about interesting narratives, this is where I was going originally when I was talking about Trudeau Trump, but I got a little sidetracked by Doug Ford, is that a lot of people, if we're talking about Pierre Poilievre getting a lot of international help, or so it seemed to be the case, to be the next Prime Minister of Canada. The one thing about Donald Trump is his unpredictability. He likes to destabilize. So even though there may be a plan, if he's got another plan, all the other people that have a plan know that it's very hard to control Donald Trump, especially once he's got something on his mind, right? I mean, during that runoff for the Georgia election, they kept on telling them, please don't tell people not to vote by mail. We actually need those votes these times. Please don't tell people not to vote because you're still pissed off about the vote count in Georgia and Governor Kemp not finding those votes for you. That won't help us, but he did it anyway. Right? So they always have that fear. Will Trump go along with the plan? It struck me that one of the things with Trump is that he loves the direct from central casting thing. He loves things like look good on TV. I mean, that's why he picks so many people from TV, right? Celebrities for his cabinet, for a whole bunch of different things. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, well, what makes for much more compelling TV? Trump versus the Prime Minister of Canada, as we mentioned, dean of the entire global centrist and progressive democracies movement, the most successful one, the AKA head of the snake, sort of global get Justin movement, as they refer to him, who happens to be good looking and dashing and debonair. So in this telenovela that's going on, you got Donald Trump. Round 2 against the guy with the good hair. Versus Donald Trump against another dull, boring, performative blue suit who is trying to become big, doing the same act that Donald Trump has already got down. And there's only room for one star in his sky anyway. And another blue suit that seems to be willing to, oh, yes. He's got enough people doing that. He needs some WWE drama, some tension, some storylines. If Donald Trump is motivated by what makes for compelling TV, let's put it this way. If I were Donald Trump and I were motivated by that which makes compelling TV, I would definitely want the program that's running for the next 4 years being me versus Trudeau. Oh, those pictures of me sitting beside the dashing, handsome leader, direct from central casting leader of a nation. Sometimes against him. Look at me slay that big woke villain. And sometimes with him. Hey, don't I look cute in Justin's car? Justin Trudeau has coattails, too. He's a celebrity. Trump really loves celebrities. Seems to me, if I was Donald Trump, I would much rather be co-starring in President 2, the sequel. More executive orders. Justin Trudeau and Pepaliev. But if that's what Trump decides he wants, maybe that's the reason for which some people over here are saying, okay, so you don't like Pierre. Maybe you'll like Doug. He likes you. Like a lot. Again, just speculation. No facts. Just events that are out there and then putting them in the grid and filling in the blanks with other things. And maybe we won't know until it happens, if it happens. But it certainly has gotten tongues wagging. Oh man. Now, Pierre Poilievre wants you to believe that the prime minister came back with that empty-handed. Now, here's the thing: the prime minister may not have come back empty-handed, but it may not also be public, right? I mean, you could be having these meetings, and they're just, Donald Trump is a transactional relationships kind of guy. It's like there's a lot about vibes, how he feels about you, right? So, he put out the invite. Prime Minister said, "Yep, I'm going. Let's make this happen." I'm sure that made Trump feel good about himself, especially since Trudeau is, like I said, on the world scene, a big deal. And to Canada, we look, oh my God, he went to Mar-a-Lago. Did he go to kiss the ring? But in the Philippines and in South Africa and in Brazil, Belgium, South Korea, whatnot, this is that photo of them sitting side by side is a big, big, big international event. It's the first leader of a G7 country to have had dinner with them since becoming president-elect. It's big. First leader of an OECD country, first leader of a G20 country. It's a big deal. Right? This is sending an international message here. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens, but it does appear that a prime minister is someone whose calls the president-elect will take and someone he's happy to spend time with and meet. That doesn't suck. That doesn't suck. Now, it would appear that when we are talking about certain things that we can do, there were suggestions that were made talking about that kind of stuff. So it could be a situation where, they're talking and saying, okay, now when you say, the border and stop fentanyl, if we did this type of stuff, and this type of stuff, would that be okay with you? Would that be enough? And they're going, yeah, that's okay. Well, if those things that are being done are things that we need to do anyway, and we're just doing them faster or reprioritizing and doing them first, why the hell not? Right? I mean, we are going to have to shore up our border, our side of the border, because we might have a migration issue that's happening. Right? So it's not like we don't have to do some stuff to increase monitoring and surveillance at our border. So there have been promises. For example, the RCMP has mentioned that they are looking at things such as redeploying, looking at all the resources that are sort of out there and redeploying towards the border, maybe an increase of 25% on resources. Right now, of course, that means if they divert those resources, there'll be things that they were doing before in other regions that they might not be doing. We might have to put more money in policing to make sure that they can do both. But that's something that they were looking at. The prime minister also talked about stuff like helicopters, more patrols, that type of stuff. And, again, Trump likes things like look good on TV. More helicopter patrols. That definitely looks good. There's a big machine, There's monitoring. You can film it. So, yeah. The RCMP confirmed it's exploring the idea of redeploying 25% of its eastern force to high priority areas like the U.S. border. That's what I was talking about earlier there. I was looking for that information specifically. So all these things can happen. Now, meanwhile, and then of course, there's also the Minister of Defense, Bill Blair, who said that, what is it that he said here? He said that Canada-U.S. border is the longest undefended border, and it's going to stay that way. But now that President-elect Donald Trump is demanding a tougher police presence, there are capabilities that the Canadian Armed Forces can provide in assistance. For example, surveillance, UAVs, and drones. So in assistance to police, not the Canadian Armed Forces doing that, because armed forces do not do policing, but might be able to lend out the equipment or train people, that type of stuff. He says any military support would come at the request of the RCMP and the Canadian Border Services Agency. According to Public Safety Minister Dominic LeBlanc, those two services have already compiled a list of additional measures they would like the government to approve quickly. He says it does include helicopters and drones. So all of these organizations already have plans, right? It's like, if we had a boost in budget, what are the things that we would do? Well, it seems that if the president-elect is going the selection of a new president-elect is going to make it such that spending on these type of issues become a bit more of a priority than they were going to be under a Biden-Harris administration. Then all of a sudden, certain organizations are going to come into certain money. And, well, yes, as a good organization would, in terms of, again, contingency planning 101, they would already have a list of projects and whatnot that said, if we had our way in a perfect world, these are all the other things we would be doing too. Well, it seems that some of those things might be being done. So those assurances might be enough to have things happen, such as, when those tariffs are announced, it's not so much 25% anymore, but it is 10. They still go on, but it's less. Or that they will go on at 25, but let me have my little tariff war for a month and a half or two, Justin, and then I'll pull them back or something. So they might be pulled back earlier. We don't know, right? For people, you have to be standing there and going like this. He got nothing out of it. You don't know what he got out of the deal. You weren't there. And again, you're not security cleared. But the one interesting thing that happened is that about a day after the meeting, that was very productive. On the U.S. side of the border, there was some talk about Keystone XL again, which must have had Danielle Smith fuming, because Danielle Smith's plan, it was her plan to be the first to get the Trump's ear to start talking about Keystone, to get him talking about it. I mean, she tripped over herself to buy airline tickets to go to the inauguration, and she doesn't even have box seats. Petty is my favorite color. He doesn't even know she's gonna be there. He probably doesn't even know she exists. But he won, and it's like, hey, Alberta, I'm buying plane tickets. I'm gonna go to the inauguration. And what? On the day of the inauguration, with everybody there, everybody celebrated. Was like, you're gonna like weasel your way in to get a 15-minute pull aside with the president-elect to discuss pipelines and oil, and you're going to make a deal? She's just wasting money. She's just wasting your money. She's going on a trip. Maybe she'll be able to have a meeting with a governor or two, if they aren't already busy with the inauguration, that is, and have their social calendar completely booked up. But yeah, Danielle Smith her plan was definitely to be, the first in line. Hey, Donald, I'm coming to your inauguration. Notice me, notice me, notice me. One Friday afternoon, Trudeau wheels up Mar-a-Lago. The next day, they're talking about Keystone. She must be fuming because she can't claim credit for it now. She can't say, I did that. I put that on the agenda. Oh, man. Oh, God, the Prime Minister keeps on blowing up their game. They must be swearing. Swearing in their bathtubs. So, yeah. Maybe he did get a few things after all. But here's the thing: is while the conservative machine is like trying to paint the prime minister as weak and ineffective and all that kind of stuff, prime minister got the invite. He went. He didn't make this big announcement beforehand, grandstanding, because if BP would have gotten the invite, he would have been in front of every camera. It's like, I got the invitation to go for dinner with President Trump at Mar-a-Lago, and the Prime Minister didn't. See, that's how far we've fallen. He's going to be Prime Minister until October, and the President-elect already doesn't want to see him. My God, what mess am I going to inherit when we finally get rid of him after a carbon tax election? Oh, man. All right. We've got a couple more minutes, so let's see if I've got a couple of other things that may not have to do with all the great drama. If you're in southern Ontario in cottage country, you're probably digging out. It seems that more than a meter of snow fell in some parts of southern Ontario, as much as 140 centimeters in certain places, like Gravenhurst maybe, and Bracebridge got over 120 centimeters. So, yeah, if you're still digging out from that, we'll definitely send you some love and some courage there. That's a hell of a lot of snow, particularly if it's the first one of the year. That just starts the year a little discouraging. Gentle correction on our November 26th show. I was talking about Canada and Mexico's annual trade, and I stated a number like about $30 to $40 billion. That's was actually Ontario's trade with Mexico. Canada's trade with Mexico in 2023 was nearly $55 billion. Mexico is our third largest trading nation, and we are Mexico's fourth. So just wanted to put that there. Also, I made a little note looking through the chats that today is Miss Shattuck's mama's 60th birthday. So happy birthday to you. You raised a good one. So I hope that you have a very special day, Mama. Thank you so very much for giving us the wonderful gift that is Miss Shattuck. We're very grateful. She kind of rocks. Oh man. Now, also, I just wanted to mention, I'll say that for another day, because the president of Mexico is definitely doing some interesting things as well. So, but we'll put that in another show. There has been a big deal with the Manitoba Métis Federation and the federal government. It seems that they've signed the first ever modern day treaty with the Métis group. The Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations finalized the agreement with the Red River Métis at a ceremony in Winnipeg. David Chartrand, the president of the Manitoba Métis Federation, reports that it means to me pride. We've always faced hostility of being recognized as a people. So he says that it will restore their rightful place in Confederation. The agreement formally recognizes the Manitoba Métis Federation federally as the government of all Red River Métis citizens, no matter where they live. Elder Oliver Boulette stated specifically, the treaty contributed to the founding of this country and creating it. The Red River Métis had actually negotiated an initial treaty back in 1870, and that was called the Manitoba Act, which led to the province entering Confederation. But as was the case with many treaties entered into at that time, we as a nation didn't really respect the terms of it, and now we have to deal with the fact that we haven't. Minister Gary Anadasangari, the Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations, said that it's about moving forward on a nation-to-nation relationship, and that he's very, very excited about this, and that this could be something that leads to more of these types of specific treaties, maybe on like specific issues with the Manitoba Métis Federation, anything having to do with resources or policing or whatnot could lead to more types of treaties. Now there's legislation that must be introduced and passed in order for the treaty to come into effect. And of course, given the filibuster, a lot of people are wondering if there's a party in this case that might consider this important enough to suspend the filibuster for a day in order to get it passed through the House so that it can go to the Senate. And one would immediately look to the NDP on this one because they claim to be very much in favor of these types of indigenous issues. And now that Jagmeet Singh did it for a GST tax holiday, he will be certainly asked if this comes for debate, for tabling, while the filibuster is still going on. Why for a GST credit, but not for a modern day treaty? And if he decides not to go ahead with it, he's going to have a very difficult time explaining that. Hey. It has been 1 year since the launch of the 988 suicide hotline in Canada. Crisis responders have answered greater than 300,000 calls and texts in the first year. For those who are not aware, 988 provides urgent life support by phone and text to people in every province and territory 24/7. It's an initiative of the Canadian Mental Health Association. I believe that they help fund it, if I'm not mistaken. And Tracy Graham says that there's not one solution to support people mental health needs. It's a range of solutions. And this is part of it. According to Statistics Canada, an average of 4,500 people across the year die by suicide each year. So having this response line is very, very important. So get some cubs if ever you happen to be in a moment of crisis like this and you do need someone to talk to. Please remember that 988 is out there. It's a service that we have now. If you know somebody who's going through some tough times, you want to make sure that they know about this number. Please do help get the word out about this service. It could be a difference maker in a critical situation. Right. In Israel and Gaza, it seems that there's been another airstrike that has taken out a vehicle operated by the international food charity World Central Kitchen, which has killed 5 people, including at least 3 World Central Kitchen aid workers, according to the Gaza Health Ministry. Israel claims it was targeting a militant involved with the October 7th attacks. Israel says the car was unmarked and had not coordinated its movements with Israel. I can understand why that might be the case, because if you remember the last time vehicles and aid workers from World Central Kitchen, vehicles were attacked and workers from World Central Kitchen died as a result of an Israeli airstrike. Them having marked their cars and coordinating their movements with Israel didn't really work out well for them. So maybe they decided it wasn't worth it doing it henceforth. But apparently, this time the cars were not marked and the route was not shared. Israel suggested that there might be an association between the charity and October 7th. Israel is claiming that someone that was involved with October 7th was working for the agency and was in one of the cars when they took them out. And they say that they want World Central Kitchen to look at its hiring practice. World Central Kitchen says that they have absolutely no idea that the person being targeted had been involved in any way with October 7th, if that is indeed the case, and that they have suspended activities right now in the Gaza Strip. I'm not sure right now whether or not this is a temporary suspension of activities to indeed look over their hiring practices and maybe do some more investigation into people they've hired since October 7th. or whether or not this will be a permanent one, because this is the third time this year the agency's workers have been attacked, and maybe they just have enough. So we don't know what's going to happen with that. For the first few days, it seems that the ceasefire is still holding. Both sides have 60 days to withdraw from the area, after which the Lebanese Army and United Nations peacekeeping forces will be in charge of securing it. The U.S. has sent a military envoy to Lebanon to help monitor the ceasefire between the warring factions. In addition to that, it seems that because now we're in about the fourth or fifth day, each side is accusing each other of violating the ceasefires. There have been strikes on both sides of the border, according to CBC. CBC's Tom Perry. Both Israel and Hezbollah say they are fighting. They are firing in self-defense. Since agreeing to a ceasefire with Hezbollah, Israel has continued to repeatedly strike within Lebanon. Israel says that they are targeting what it calls violations of the ceasefire deal by the militant group, and that they are not trying to provoke anything, but merely enforce its terms. Again, not sure how true that is with all the various spins that are in there, but Israel did say when they had negotiated the ceasefire that if Lebanon, if there's any attack, if there's any movement, Israel will attack. If there seems to be any type of gathering or regrouping or trying to reconstitute, Israel will attack. It seems that even something like sending over 2 mortar shells that don't touch anything is enough for Israel to say this is a big enough provocation, and do a lot by air to try and say it's like, no, like not even that. We will not tolerate that. So, but it seems it is still holding, even though there are these violations and creative interpretations of what the terms of the deal may be. Let's see if I've got anything more here for you, kids and cubs. Oh yes, the big thing that has been going on is, and this also indirectly involves Gaza and what is going on in Ukraine. And that is, it seems that there is new activity in Syria. There had been pretty much a status quo that had installed itself and had been lasting for quite a while. But it would appear that now, what with it being rather common knowledge that Iran is very vulnerable by air. It has no air defense. And Iran allegedly issuing the order behind the scenes to Hezbollah to come to an agreement with a ceasefire with Israel. Probably because Iran is not able to support as Hezbollah as it would normally, given that it is so vulnerable by air. And given that Russia is rather depleted as well in Ukraine, even though Russia right now currently is in the best position it has been since the war started, and Ukraine is in the worst position, and President Volodymyr Zelensky has actually indicated that he appears to be willing to temporarily freeze the borders as they are now if he could get membership for all of Ukraine, even the occupied territories, recognition by NATO, so that they would have Article 5 protection, and then try to make deals afterwards to get back the rest of the territory diplomatically, which is a very, very big change. So it seems to indicate that Ukraine might be at the end of its abilities, because a lot of there's not tons of people in Ukraine, and a lot of its human resources human capital that would be used for the war is very depleted. And it seems that 57% of the population would like a ceasefire right now, which does give him a mandate to go and move the goalposts a little. And on the Russian side of the equation, well, things aren't going very well for them too. Russia would like to be able to try and make a big move before January, when things sort of freeze up and becomes a little more difficult to get by during the winter. But it would also appear that Russia, financially, they're getting close to that breaking point that we talked to you about. We've been updating you about many times over the course of the years. But the Russian ruble right now has cratered. I mean, it was doing pretty bad, but it's had a particular cratering over the last few days. And I think it is 133 Russian rubles to the US dollar at the moment, which is quite a lot. Then it would appear as well that, well, like I said, Russia also on manpower is suffering, but they do have some reinforcements from North Korea coming in. But Russia is also the main supplier and defense guarantor for Syria. And it's kind of stretched a little thin at the moment. So that makes it harder for Russia to be able to respond as nimbly as it could have earlier on in the conflict, when Assad wasn't doing very well, and then Russia came in and provided some bombing support for the air, and really turned things around for the butcher, unfortunately. It also appears that inflation in Russia is at about 8.5%, but central bank interest rates are at about 21%, which is about 2.5 times inflation. And he's been, moving things around to try to make things look like things are still normal. But there are fewer and fewer things that he is able to move to maintain that illusion. So there will come a time where things might collapse. That he won't be able to maintain appearances in any way, shape, or form at the moment. So he's got currency supply restrictions in place at the moment as well. So the Syrian people are seeing that they have a real chance right now, and it seems that there's a rebel group that has taken advantage of this situation and has mounted the biggest resistance against Assad that has been seen in quite a long time. Now, Assad was never really able to exert full control over the northwestern part of the country. And this new group is used to be sort of associated with Al Qaeda. I think they called themselves Al Nostra back in the day, and you might have heard of that. They are not that anymore. Allegedly, they've sort of regrouped and rechanged their name, and apparently this iteration of it is not as extreme as Al Nostra and Al Qaeda was, not as extreme when they're positioned against women, but I mean they're still Islamists and jihadists and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's how would I put it? It's so it's a new group. They are organized, and they've come and they've taken the northwestern part of the nation. Now, this is, like I mentioned, a part that Assad didn't really control fully, but they've taken it over very, very, very quickly. We're talking about Aleppo province and then Idlib province. And they've taken over one of the major airports, one of the biggest industrial uh, areas in the entire nation. All of this stuff is very, very important to um, their push forward. And it doesn't seem that Assad has a response. Russia has come in to start bombing some of the positions there to try and give some help. Um, Now, it seems that things are a little complicated because the rebel group does seem to have a strategic alliance with some Turkish Kurds, which also brings Turkey into the mix because Erdogan really doesn't want anybody making any types of deals or giving any type of legitimacy to the Turkish Kurds. So on one side you have Iran, Russia, Turkey, and Syria, and then on the other side you seem to have the rebels and the Turkish Kurds. Which is kind of interesting. Syria, like Russia, is in terrible financial position at the moment, and apparently, according to Janice Stein of the Monk School, it is exporting drugs to the green markets of the Middle East in order to gain its hard currency. The soldiers in the Syrian army are not well paid. Many have abandoned it, leaving equipment behind them. Assad currently has a very poorly trained army with very low morale. Hezbollah supported Assad initially, but they don't have the means to assist this time around. They've used a lot of their bombs in the whole Israel thing at the moment, and Iran is not there to be able to offer additional assistance. There are apparently about 800 American troops in Syria right now, but they don't support any group other than the Kurds somewhat. They have made deals with them and then have left them high and dry a few times. The Iranian foreign minister was in Beirut last week. Now he's in Damascus. Syria is one of Iran's biggest allies. But like I said, Iran is not in much of a position to help at the moment. But at least going there and doing the diplomatic stuff makes it look like this probably has more bark than bite. Really, Netanyahu's former defense minister apparently came out and accused the prime minister of war crimes, particularly ethnic cleansing. So that's another twist that's going on over there. And it seems that the active generals in Israel's army oppose the strategy in northern Gaza. They want to withdraw with a hostage deal in exchange for the ceasefire, and they've been pushing for months for Netanyahu to make a commitment about what happens the day after. Egypt is also pushing very hard. So they got this pressure going on as this thing is exploding in Syria. It's difficult to find words. It's so inconceivable that a prime minister with the right-wing coalition that's controlled by the most extreme elements of the right wing, opposed by the military, which really matters in most societies, and opposed to 50% of the population roughly, is able to cling to power because in order to force them out, there needs to be a majority vote in the... I think I have some Syria notes confused with some Israel notes here. Which is not supposed to be the case. But yes, some notes got mixed up. I am so sorry, kids and cubs there. That was my mistake. So yeah, that's going on in Syria. Apparently, the rebels are still expanding. They are still taking over more territory. It would appear that according to Jason J. Smart, who has a lifetime ban from Russia for anti-Putin work, who is based in Kyiv. He says that with regard to the Russian side of all of this, and a little bit as it interplays with Assad. He says, on Thursday, news began circulating that Assad had urgently arrived in Moscow to meet with Putin, while pro-Assad sources stated that the Arab dictator's trip was to discuss investing in his country's reconstruction. Opposition news suggested that Assad's sojourn was really due to, quote, instability breaking out in Syria. Unlike a, quote, normal state visit, it appears that the Syrian leader brought his entire extended family with him to Moscow, where they are staying in a luxury hotel, while the tyrant is holed up in the Kremlin, waiting for Putin. And Assad is now back in Syria. But so this is, I believe, from Thursday, from November 29th. This is written. Incredibly, Putin is not even in Moscow. Rather, Putin is in Kazakhstan, and the Russian Minister of Defense is in North Korea, thus confirming that the Syrian rebels' offensive caught both Assad and Putin off guard. Increasingly trapped in an economic and military quagmire, Russia was recently forced to remove its military aircraft, which had been backing Assad in Syria, to send them to Russia's other war, in Ukraine. However, even without the aircraft, it is stunning that the Syrian rebels' offensive, in less than 24 hours, took the second largest city, Aleppo, with only limited fighting. Since yesterday, there are indications that Assad's army may be crumbling, lending credence to reports that Russian fighters in Iranian-backed Hezbollah, instead of fighting to defend Assad, are fleeing. Once a critical mass of soldiers deserts, the chances of the phenomena becoming widespread increases. In this case, the regime's opponents would likely be able to then expeditiously vanquish the decimated national army. At this point, Putin is limited in what assistance he can offer his ally. Russia's economy is on the precipice of total collapse, whilst the Russian military does not have the capacity to kick the Ukrainian army out of Kursk Oblast, Russia, much less prop up Assad. If the Kremlin, lacking both money and military might, decides to allow Assad to fall, then a chain of events could begin that would acutely worsen Russia's economy and destabilize the autocracy's brutal political system. Putin is not playing 4D chess. Rather, Putin's poorly devised strategy of over-obligating his country to unnecessary foreign wars, which has destroyed his nation's economy, could soon come full circle, triggering Putin's own demise. As the winds of change begin to blow, the collapse of Putin's house of cards looks even more likely. So, lots of huge chess pieces being moved on the global stage here. It's yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what is going to emerge from this. But it even appears that Iran has been trying to initiate phone calls with the president-elect to discuss its nuclear program, because it seems it might be inclined to come to an agreement. Again, something that tends to happen when you no longer have any air defense. There's some things shifting. Oh, and if you're wondering in all of this about the Saudis, it seems that Mohammed bin Salman really insists that there indeed be some type of two-state solution and a national unity government in Palestine, but that with Iran in the weakened position, Israel is not particularly inclined to go for that, and we're not whether or not there's anything that Saudi Arabia could actually do at this point in time to egg that along. So a lot of the usual players in this region are in a slightly uncomfortable and new to them, at least in recent times, positions. Which, again, if you're a international political junkie, makes this a very fascinating period to see how all the different players will react to everyone's different moves and positioning. But it also increases the opportunity for somebody's move to be misinterpreted. So hopefully there is abundance of back-channel communication between all of these nations to make sure that we do not have an unexpected oopsie, because that could be very, very, very dangerous. All right, kids and cubs, I think we have an episode. All right. That's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. And you have the mouths from which we want the words to come. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us, because that makes us very happy when you do. Now, if you would like to not miss an episode of the podcast at all, you do not have to. Thanks to the Ray Girl, because she sponsors our pod page. Podpage.com/the True North Eager Beaver, lowercase letters with a hyphen between each one of those words. And when you go there and click subscribe or scan that QR code that just appeared to get you there, if you go there, click subscribe when we have something fresh off the bandwidth, it comes directly to you, kids and cubs. And we thank you for subscribing. It really means the world to us when you do. Now, kids and cubs, if you would like to support us, then you maybe need to take a tip from Elaine and surf yourself on down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube channel, where we have some buttons there: like, share, and subscribe. And it should have appeared, but I do not see it on my screen. There it is. Like, share, and subscribe. If you go there and click on those, we get ourselves a little bit of happy. So we thank you very much for your support over there. And of course, the YouTube channel has the Damn Fam there. So if you're listening on audio and you would like to get in on the conversation with the Damn Fam, the best Damn Fam in all of podcasting, a wonderful group of people that have very engaging conversations and just kind. Because very encouraging and supportive. Strong opinions, but overall, very, very kind people. So if you would like to get in on that, scan that QR code. That brings you to our YouTube channel. And there you can participate morning if you are watching live. And also leave some comments below for us, because we do love to hear from you. Now, if you would like to support us in other ways, because as you know, kids and cubs, there are some costs to bringing the show with you: internet fees, subscriptions, when we buy new equipment, that type of stuff, or we have to upgrade. And we do appreciate your help in order to be able to underwrite the costs. So if you would like to make a little contribution to the Beaver Lodge Emergency Hydration Fund, because as we mentioned often when we talk about the hydration fund, we use it to hire staff, right? Hot chocolate, I find it very helpful to getting the show ready. Mr. Grizzly likes a black and bitter coffee. Every now and then, a Guinness for Mr. Grizzly and a Caesar for me. But the problem is that our staff keeps on disappearing. We have big, big, big problems with retention. So we need your help to hire more staff. So if you would like to make a contribution to the Beaver Lodge's Emergency Hydration Fund in order to keep us moist, well then, we got you covered. You just scan that QR code that just appeared, or you go to our coffee page, coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, lowercase letters, all in one word. And if you drop a couple of coins in there, maybe a Laurier, who knows? But if whatever you can donate, if you can drop a little bit in there to say, Atta Beaver, that was some good work you did today, and some good work you've been doing lately. And Atta Grizzly, thank you so much for bringing us the show that we love. Then we would be very, very, very happy to be the beneficiaries of your kind generosity. So thank you for everything that you are able to contribute. Now, if you are not able to contribute, I don't want you to feel bad at all, because that's not what it's about, right? It's about your presence. It's about your attention. It's about your participation. It's about our community, right? And we're glad you're here, and we want to hear from you. So please write to us at truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com, at trueeager, at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge, and on the old jitter. Our original and the best Facebook page, True North Eager Beaver, or as we mentioned before, on YouTube, just down below in the comments. We do read everything, even if we're not able to get back to everyone. And Kit Tim McCaffrey, if you are listening and you are in the chat, if you've had that job interview, please do let us know how it went. I'm very, very, very excited for the opportunity for you. All right. Let's see. So we've covered all the ways you can communicate with us. So I guess it's because democracy is something that you do time. If you live in the electoral district of Cloverdale, Langley City in British Columbia, you have a federal by-election coming up on December 16th. And if you live in the provincial electoral district of Lethbridge West in Alberta, you have a provincial by-election coming up on December 18th. See? I promised I would get the date for you and be able to mention it, and I have. Promise made, promise kept. Vote for me. So please, kids and cubs, make sure that you research your candidates. If you want to volunteer at a polling station, let it be known. And if there's a candidate that you like in particular that you want to support, please do. Get out there, put your back in the game. Listen, phone maker, knock on doors, or all that good stuff. Democracy is something that you do. So get involved. We appreciate it when you do. Thank you so much. Words of wisdom, since I don't have Mr. Grizzly with me. Words of wisdom. Had a curling match yesterday that didn't start out well for us, and it would have been very easy for us to get down. And the other team was playing lights out, and we got better, and we actually got to within one, and at a point where we had the winning and then tying point in the rings, when for about the third or fourth or maybe even fifth time in the match, the other team threw a rock that didn't actually go where it is that they wanted to go, but for some reason bounced on a couple of things and ended up working out for them, and they ended up winning the game. It was really not meant to be for us on that day, clearly, because they were playing well and they had the luck. But the thing that I was proud of is that we never gave up. We never got down on ourselves, because we focused, we played better, we made a match out of it, we had a legit chance to win it. And then another curveball. We didn't win it. But we remained calm, and we didn't get down on ourselves. And we were able to respond productively. So that would be my word of advice. If things appear to be going a little bit off the rails, don't panic. Find some stillness. Come up with a plan. Sharpen your focus. And go out and give yourself a fighting chance. Those are my words of wisdom. All right, kits and cubs, we are at a tricky part now, because I haven't done this in a couple of days. So I actually have to look up how it is that I dismount. So season 4, and I'm still new here. Not exactly sure how that happens, but okay. They have moved everything. Oh, there it is. Okay, that's where the thing is. Okay, perfect. Oh, I also realized that I never put the logo up. There you go. Well, people will see that we were live right at the end. But all right, here is the end bumper. I believe this is the right one. I'm crossing my fingers, but let's hope this works. And if it works, when we come back, please clap. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and The Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right, Kits and Gubs, a little Easter egg. I'm seeing here in the chat some beautiful comments. Mr. Jim, my friend, you know I love you with all my heart. Mr. Beaver is, thank you so very much for that beautiful compliment. I definitely appreciate it. Uncover the news, a little update here. Protesters have blockaded the Confederation building in Ottawa in support of Palestine. Don't know much about that, but we'll be looking into that and we'll bring you some news on that if we need to. That's that. And there was something I did want to mention when I came back from Easter egg, and I forgot. So, I'm just nailing it today. All right. All right, Kits and Cubs. Please have a most wonderful and beaverific day. And I will see you tomorrow morning with Mr. Grizzly. And hopefully we will have a more normal show because solo is really weird. All right. Bye.